Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar organised by the ISTE Global Collaboration PLN for ISTE itself. And Julie, it's wonderful to have you today because you were the founder of this wonderful group. So Julie is quite a leading figure in the world of global collaboration and a pioneer in all this field as well. And I'm just trying to find, I wrote down your bio. So now in my head, I need to find it.
Oh, Julie, Anne, do you want me to introduce myself? That's okay.
Well, I'd just like to say that, you know, Julie, I got to know Julie really well through the Flat Connections global projects, which were amazing projects for my students to be in. I'm camping at Port Fairy down south, West Australia or Victoria. If you look out the window, which you probably can't see of our caravan, we have such a thick smoke haze from the bushfires today, but they are under control near us. Julie, have you got any sign of the bushfires?
Yeah, hi everyone. Look, I'm in Australia, same as Anne. We're in the same time zone on the East Coast. I'm about halfway up the East Coast in a place called Ocean Shores. And look, no bushfire signs at all today. In fact, it's been raining the last few days. We're very lucky to get rain now. And it's going to be raining on and off the next week by the look of it. So we're doing really well up in this part of Australia, not like a lot of the other parts, particularly down south. Yeah.
Anyway, Julie, without further ado, I'll leave it over to you. Thank you so much for giving up your time today. And we've got about 30 minutes from now. So
okay. Thanks, Anne. Okay, so I just need to work out how to change my slides. There we go. Good. All right. So, look, I want to provide some new perspectives for you based on well, the work I've been doing in the last 25 years, but also there I am in my puffy hat. I just finished my PhD in 2019, graduated in September 2019 from the University of Southern Queensland. So it's sort of a full stop on quite a long global journey that has included working and teaching in 5 other countries apart from Australia over 15 years, etc. And there is immense value in bringing those other classrooms into your classroom, to joining up and doing something collaborative to develop this empathy. And then, of course, we've got this, you know, fish jumping out of the fishbowl to meet the other fish, opening a dialogue between inside and outside perspectives. And this is Etienne Wenger talks about this a lot. There's something that you can investigate if you want to go further with that. All right, I'm not sure if we're getting, I need to move that up. I'm not sure if you're seeing this control panel or not. I want to just go over this briefly because this is like a foundation of the work that I did for my PhD, and it's work that I did 10 years ago pretty much when I first started collaborating globally and sharing the work. And this is what we call the global connections, taxonomy of global connection. And there are different levels. Now, I want to go through each one of these just briefly so that we're on the same page. So for example, if you're looking to collaborate globally and you think, well, what am I doing? Where do I start? One good way to start is just within your own classroom. So in other words, how are you collaborating with your students online and digitally when everyone goes home in the afternoon, right? You've gone home, students have gone home. How do you keep in touch? Are you using Twitter? Do you have a learning management system that allows access from home? Are you using blogs, or are you using some sort of Google or Microsoft implementation that allows that beyond the classroom communication? All right, now this is level 1, intra-connection. So typically one teacher, a set of students, all right? So being able to stay in touch with your students. This stage is so important. If you're not familiar with tools, like, for example, you might be using Padlet or VoiceThread, and you might be setting some work for students to engage with at home that they connect with other students beyond, you know, the daily class face-to-face. This starts to build up the skills that you need. Now, level 2, of course, is interconnection. This is 2 classes share intercultural understanding and they move towards problem solving. This could be your class and the class in the room next door. This could be your class and the class in another country. This could be your class and a class, you know, in a different state, for example. But building up those skills and the communication that's necessary for the two teachers to talk to each other and say, well, hey, what are we going to do? We've got two classes. Let's join them. But what does that mean? What are the tools we're going to use? Because one school might be a Microsoft school, one might be a Google school, for example. All sorts of problems start to emerge. One school may not have access to Skype. We have a couple of states here in Australia who block Skype just for the heck of it. Don't know why. One school might not have access to Google Hangouts or whatever it is. And you can see, I mean, Anne and I experienced global collaborators, and we had trouble getting into this room today. So, and I'm not saying give up before you even start, because I encourage you to do all of this, but it takes a little bit of thought, a little bit of practice, and a little bit of flexibility. And starting, just you and one other class is a good way to start building those skills. Then we've got this level 3, what I call managed global connection. And this is where a few teachers get together. And it may be project-based now. We might be talking about a global project. And the teachers decide, well, this is what we're going to do. And they go back to their class and say, well, this is what we're going to do. And you might do a synchronous Skype call. You might do an asynchronous Padlet or an asynchronous little project. And then share it, etc. So the teachers are managing this. They're designing it and managing it. And the students are sort of following along, which compares with this next one, level 4, which is student-to-student with teacher management. This is where the students connect directly to each other. And I guess something like Padlet actually does allow them to do that more so at level 4. And they're starting to build understanding through direct connection, not having to go through their teacher. Now, the teachers, of course, still have to collaborate to say, well, what are the learning objectives? How are we designing this collaboration? What are we going to, what are the outcomes that we want to see? But basically, the students now, perhaps the students are a little bit older, though I've seen this work from grade 3 onwards, and students are taking more sort of self-determined approach to this global collaborative learning mode. And then finally, level 5, which is a difficult one to achieve, and perhaps is more relevant to your sort of upper middle high school students, where we have student leaders, and students really take a lot of responsibility for the collaboration and a lot of responsibility for the outcomes, what the collaboration actually produces, and teachers are there to facilitate. Basically, they become a facilitation. It becomes a facilitation role. So that's the 5 levels, and they're not necessarily, you can jump from 1 to 5 if you want to, if you feel you have the skills. And often it's good to jump from 1 to 3 or 4 with other experienced global collaborators who can hold your hand and lead you through. All right, so successful online global collaboration. These are some of the key features. That one on the top left, relevant to the curriculum. For many years, I implemented online global collaborative learning with my students, but I couldn't do it in class time. I had to do it at lunchtime. I had to do it after school. I ran clubs. I did all sorts of things until I just said, no, this is not good enough. It has to be relevant to the curriculum. It has to be embedded into the curriculum. Really important. So if you're at that stage in your school, keep having those conversations, because yes, we know that out-of-school clubs are a good thing. Extracurricular learning is a great thing, but this is so important. It needs to be embedded into the curriculum. So we need good communication. We need strong project organisation. We need design that is clear for teachers to understand, because if you're going to invite other teachers to come in and collaborate with you, there has to be a purpose. Now, often I see teachers, for example, I have a French class. We'd like to collaborate globally with another French class. Do you want to join us? Well, that sounds great, but what are you going to do? There needs to be more structure around this. There's a whole thing about the latest book I wrote for ISTE about design and structure, and giving people some sort of step into what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so we need to design something that allows students to learn about the cultures involved, but not just about, learn with, which is the next one there, to co-create new meaning with global partners. Now, the enablers, this is related to my PhD research and also, experience in the last 15 or so years. This will only happen if we have satisfactory infrastructure in the school. We have technology integration that allows this to happen in the classroom. Teachers have sufficient professional learning, which doesn't have to be organised by the school, of course. It can be you doing your own professional learning. Of course, this webinar, ISTE Global PLN, is one of the best, I think, one of the best communities to be a part of in terms of learning about global collaboration. We also need pedagogical capacity, the understanding of how collaboration works, the understanding about how global connections work, and we need this thing called attitude and belief. We need certain attitudes and beliefs as educators to make this work, and this is what I want to focus on in particular. I just want to, just before I do that, I want to mention there's some researchers there that I've got some references at the end who have documented the slow uptake of digital and online learning in K-12. Now, this is going back 20 years, over the last 20 years. And we know that it's been a slow road for many of us, for many schools. And a lot of money has been spent on hardware and software and networking, which now means Peggy Ertmer actually is the one who coined these terms. So first order barriers, you need your hardware, you need your software, you need your networking. Now, if they're in place, we should be able to collaborate globally, right? But she has also identified through research these what she calls second order barriers. This is the attitudes and beliefs about the efficacy of digital learning. And, I was IT director in many schools, and it's that coming to the table with this attitude that, yes, this is going to work, that yes, I will use digital learning in my everyday teaching learning. What am I doing here? Go back. Sorry. Let's try this again. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's keep going. So let's look at new concepts and pedagogies. When I talk about pedagogical change, I'm referring to how educational goals might change due to a paradigm shift to constructivist teaching modes for online globally connected and collaborative learning. So my really approach now is that we need to see more pedagogical change. It is possible, and actually global collaboration influences pedagogical change. This is a little bit complicated. I'm going to rush over some of these slides. You're going to get I'll give you the online link to the slides, and you can look at these at your own leisure. But, when we're talking about educator enabling personal pedagogies, what enables you as an educator to personally implement collaborative learning, global collaborative learning? Well, you need to have a disposition to online learning. You need to have a particular approach to professional learning, and you need this conceptual change, all right, that to move towards open and innovative online global collaborative learning, etc. Okay, I'm going to go into this a bit more. Now, the thing I really want to emphasize is that, and this has been not so much a revelation, but my research has really honed in on the reality of the fact that online global collaboration is not just a skill set. It's not just about the technology. And I was really focused, a few years ago, I was really focused on the technology and come on, learn the tools, learn the skills, you'll be fine. Go out and collaborate. But a bit like Peggy Ertmer and her research, and I've actually taken her research and extended it into this global realm, it's really about the mindset. Now, when I talk about mindset, I'm talking about a person's mental outlook, belief or disposition, and this can enable, or it can be a barrier, of course. There's two sides to this coin. You may know Carol Dweck talks about growth mindset. So when we think about mindset in education, we think, oh yes, Carol Dweck's had an influence on education and outside of education as well. You may know of Jennifer Klein, who wrote a book on global education not so long ago. She talks about asset and deficit mindset and being able to approach global connections with empathy and the expectation of equality between partners. I think that's having an asset mindset and learning about global partners and solving for rather than solving with is really a deficit. You know, we don't want to just learn about, we don't want to solve problems, we don't want to solve all the problems in the third world. We actually want to learn how to work with the third world so we can solve problems together. So I've come up with what I call the global collaborator mindset. Iterative process, empowers educators, and potentially further influences pedagogical approaches. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, yeah, isn't that obvious? Maybe it's obvious. Maybe it's obvious to some of us, but research that I've done has now shown that this is something that we can talk about. It's tangible. We can share it. We can learn it. And there's this symbiotic relationship between online global collaboration in the classroom and what I'm calling the global collaborator mindset. Now, I'm looking at, I want to share with you 4 attributes of the global collaborator mindset that I talk about these days. There might be more, but at the moment I'm talking about 4. So we've got connection, openness, autonomy, and innovation. Oops. Oh, goodness, Anne, sorry. Keep losing this. There we go, try again. I'm going to go through each one of these, and I've put a lot of text on these slides, but I'm not going to read all that out, but you can read that later if you want to. I'm just going to read out some keywords. So, an educator with a global collaborator mindset is a connected educator, right? Has an online presence, builds PLNs, leverages professional learning communities like the ISTE Global PLN, is able to develop and work with virtual relationships, understand synchronous, asynchronous, etc. I'm not going to read all that out, okay? So a lot of you in this webinar, I think, are already quite connected. You're curious. You want to move forward. So you probably already have, largely, that attribute of the global collaborator mindset. The next attribute is openness. So an educator who is open is able to leverage digital technologies to create and share. Right? This is really important. Openness as an educator is not a natural disposition, I've found, and I've worked in quite a few schools, and I'm working at higher education in particular. It's particularly lacking, I can tell you, in terms of sharing what you create, sharing what you think, sharing what you're doing in your classroom. And this is really pertinent to global collaborative learning. And, you know, not being afraid to share. Many of us have shared for a long time now. And it's a good thing to do. Implements new ideas, adopts a beyond the textbook stance. Learning can happen anywhere, anytime. Flattens the learning. When I talk about flattened learning, you know, less hierarchy, more not so much didactic, more constructivist, of course. Integrates new pedagogies, expresses empathy, etc. The attribute of autonomy. Now, this is a tricky one, and there's a lot more that I could say about this. But we're running out of time, of course. But having autonomy in your own classroom is really important as a global collaborator. And this is part of the mindset. Now, in some schools, it's really difficult. I know. But often it is your own disposition, not so much the school is saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's more what you're allowing yourself to do. All right, so we've got words here like pedagogical independence, flexible and agile approach, resilient, risk taker, reframes actions as a leader in global learning. You in your classroom, or you as a leader in the school, whatever position you have, you can all reframe your actions as in terms of leadership. You can be a leader. And innovation, right, practices online collaboration as the new normal, designs new collaborative models, cultivates growth mindsets, global citizenship, etc. So there's a lot that we could say there about innovation. That's just a simple summary. Moving towards the end, because I know I want to leave some time for comments and questions. just some other things that really we'll need to go into in more depth in a later webinar. The Online Global Collaborative Learning Construct, OGCL, really combines all of these three elements: online learning, global learning, and collaborative learning, and moving the learning, of course, from learning about to learning with. Okay, with global learning and online learning, you can look up the internet, you can learn about, etc. But it's not until you get to that collaborative learning in conjunction with online learning, in conjunction with global collaborative learning objectives, that you really start to learn with. And this is, as I said before, one of the real goals of online global collaborative learning, is to be able to learn with. And my vision for the future is to have this online global collaborative learning construct as the centre of what we do pedagogically in our classroom. Everything should be connected beyond the classroom in some way. Some of you may know the term concept-based learning. That's related to holistic and self-determined learning. And then, of course, we surround that with competencies, beliefs and pedagogies, and then scaffolded completely by the global collaborator mindset: connection, openness, autonomy and innovation. So I'm giving this to you as a pedagogical model for further conversations in your professional learning communities, in your school, in your teacher professional days, etc. And to start to think about how you would unpack this. Where would you start? Of course, I suggest you start with the global collaborator mindset in terms of starting to move towards a whole school approach with this. All right, finishing off, this is me. That's the book I wrote for ISTE that was published 3.5 years ago now, The Global Educator. I recommend you buy the e-book, because the e-book has 36 case studies that aren't in the hard copy book, otherwise it would have been twice the size. And the e-book also has some audio files as well, educators talking about their experience with global collaboration. Take a look at what I do with Flat Connections. We've got global projects starting in February again, and I'm just rewriting all of my professional learning for educators as well. So you might be interested to dip into that and get in touch with me in terms of that as well. And they're the references, so they're there. All right, and I might stop sharing and see, so I can go back and see the chat window a bit better and see if there are any questions.
I don't know. Are there any questions from anybody? I know some of our attendees, like Kathleen Fugel, does the Scratch Pals Global Collaborative Project. So you might have some comments, Kathleen, or questions. And while you're perhaps putting them in, I didn't even introduce myself in our skirmish to get going. So I'm Anne Merchant. I'm one of the co-communication chairs for the ISTE Global Collaboration PLN. And of course, our big conference is coming up very soon in June. Julie, will you be able to go this year?
No.
No.
Sorry. Okay. I'm not sure where I'm going to be at that point. But no. Oops, hang on. Why isn't that going in? I'm just trying to put the link into the chat window. Yeah, link to online slides. There we go. And that I can tweet that out as well. So, yeah. Any questions, anyone? Any comments?
Julie, has your ideas and mindset changed at all because you've now looked at the tertiary education sector, like being actively part of that?
There's so much work to do in teacher education. That's my big takeaway at the moment. I'm an adjunct at the master's degree for teachers in Australia, or no, internationally, actually, it's an international course. But I'm really cognizant now of how much work needs to be done in teacher education. There's a real disconnect there between what's happening in universities and what's happening in schools. And yeah.
I also find that, especially in Australia, we've got such a crowded curriculum now that a lot of teachers will just say they don't have time for any of this because they've got to learn so many new skill sets and, take the time to collaborate and connect. So I don't know if that's the same in the US, but it's just little steps all the time, isn't it, Julie?
Yeah. I think US and Australia are very similar. The accountability of educators has just grown out of proportion. The collecting of data is takes up an immense amount of time, and then this lack of autonomy to really start to build your own direction in teaching and learning that that is perhaps a little bit different. I don't know that we really value innovation. I don't know that we really understand innovation.
No.
I've seen, Australia and the US and across the world, what people call innovation, I wouldn't call innovation a lot of the time. So I think we need to talk a lot more about that. Kathleen says there are many teachers who have never tried global collaboration and who are nervous to give it a try. Yeah, and Kathleen's where one step at a time. Find a like-minded partner, for example, and build something around similar ideas, or jump into an established project that will provide professional development as you do the project.
I just find personally that students love global collaborative projects because I'm not quite sure why. I think there's something rather amazing about being able to work with the world. And, once they start, it becomes student driven a lot of the time too.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, we'll just wait a few more minutes to see if any more questions go in. I do hope this recording works because it was already in progress when we came in. We just had a clash, I think, with meeting rooms today. So we'll get back to you. You'll be given a link to the recording once the webinar is finished. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all panned out. And Julie, I will let you know. Oh, here we go. Kathleen has got a question there.
Could you talk about your work with Flat Connections? Yeah, sure, Kathleen. Okay, so Flat Connections is a consultancy or an organisation that I run, and I design global collaborative projects and offer them to anyone in the world to come and join via subscription, or I do give out some scholarships. And I also design and implement online professional learning for educators. So the projects that we're about to launch into some projects in February. I used to run a lot of projects all at once. We're running 3 projects this coming February. One is called Windows to the World, which is for grade 3 to 6 students, which is a little bit like a pen pal type of global collaboration. Quite simple, but still honing in on certain connection and collaboration skills. And then we've got Friends for Sustainability, which is grade 5 to 8, which is like a middle school project, and that's really honing in on sustainable development goal thematic material. Really powerful project, that one. I think last year we ran it. We had 6 or 7 countries coming together and students talking about different aspects of the sustainable development goals. And then the other one we're running in February is, once again, Global Youth Debates. And that's a really powerful project. It's actually formal debating, but in an asynchronous mode, and we use VoiceThread as the key tool. But we also get the students together. They get to know each other through Padlet. We encourage, of course, synchronous connections wherever is possible. We had Uganda. We had Uganda, India, and 3 places from the USA in the project last semester. So I know I think Uganda's coming back in again, hopefully India. It just, and the theme they just debated was climate change and student empowerment last semester. We want to keep a similar sort of theme around climate change, animal extinction, something like that this coming semester as well. And what I really like about this project is, we get students in grade 12 debating grade 5, and we mix it all up, and teachers are often uncomfortable with that. They say, well, hang on, I don't want my grade 12s debating grade 5s, but I tell you what, grade 5s usually win the debate, which is really interesting. How long have I been involved? Oh, look, well, it stemmed from Flat Classroom, and Flat Classroom started in 2006, so I guess the project's been going 14, nearly 15 years, Anne. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Can't seem to give them up.
No, they are very, very special, but hopefully they keep increasing in popularity and usage by educators around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? If not, Julie, look, I'd really like to thank you very much for giving up your time. Oh, yeah, good. So some are going to read more via your website and books.
Thanks, Kathleen.
And
Cool.
perhaps follow Julie. Did you give us your Twitter ID or how?
Yeah, just my name. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Just my. Oh, everyone. Why isn't it?
Yes, there's something rather odd with our connection today. So thank you, everyone, for persevering. There is. And I think it will yet be revealed. Anyway, thank you, everyone, for coming and attending. I'm just going to see if I can close my chat and just see. Julie, can you see how many attendees do we have?
We've got 4 at the moment.
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. You'll all get that link to the recording, and a lot of people probably registered for the webinar, Julie, but again, US is on their sleep time, I guess. Almost, yeah. And a lot of Australia is still on holiday, so it's a bit difficult sometimes to come online synchronously when that happens. Anyway, thank you very much again, Julie. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Do you have anything else you'd like to say, Julie?
No, look, I'm trying to put my Twitter handle. You saw it anyway in the slides. It's just at Julie Lindsay. And look, stay in touch, everyone. Please reach out to me if you want to know more.
Yes.
And thanks so much, Anne.
Okay. Thanks, Julie. Great to work with you again. Right.
Thanks. Bye for now, everyone.